All right, good afternoon. My name is Ashley Craiglow, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us today for today's session on age-friendly Arrowhead statewide progress and regional impact. Before we start, we're going to go over a few housekeeping items. We are excited to announce that today's webinar will be accessible to a wider audience. We have arranged for an American Sign Language interpreters who will be present throughout the session. These interpreters will rotate every 20 minutes, ensuring that everyone can follow the content effectively. Additionally, we are recording the entire webinar with ASL interpretations. The recordings will be available on our YouTube channel for later viewing. Whether you attend the live session or catch up later, you'll have the opportunity to engage with the material in a way that suits your needs. I encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you can keep up with the latest additions to our video library. We are looking for suggestions for future webinar topics, so if you have suggestions for topics or speakers, feel free to send those to me in an email or share them in the chat. Please keep your microphones set to mute. Just to note if you experience any issues with broadband or audio quality, it helps to disable your camera. If you'd like, you can enter your first name and organization or community that you're from into the chat box, and what you're hoping to get out of today's session and how you found out about the webinar. If you have any questions during today's session, please feel free to enter your question into the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation. We will also take some additional questions at that time. At the close of today's session, you will see a quick evaluation for today's session that will pop up in your browser. If you can take a minute to complete that survey, it helps us greatly when planning future sessions. One last quick reminder, visit our Facebook page for more information about upcoming sessions. You can also check out our website at arrowheadaging.org. So now I'm going to quick read our Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging land acknowledgement. Georgia's going to pull that up here. As we support our mission to help older adults maintain their highest level of independence, we do this while being respectful of the space we are being welcomed into by Indigenous people. We strive to deepen our understanding of the multiple ways in which people see and understand land acknowledgement, the Indigenous people who have relationships with this land. We also acknowledge the decades of historical trauma, loss, and grief experienced by Indigenous people. It is our promise to not only recognize these truths, but also take action to show support for our Indigenous elders, neighbors, and friends, and understand our place within the past, present, and future of this land. We know this is just one step in recognizing and honoring the sovereignty of tribal nations. So with that, I am honored to be joined by today's presenter, Georgia Lane. Thank you for being with us today, and I will now turn things over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you for everyone hopping on today. We have over 100 people that registered for this webinar from all across the state and all across the region. So I'm really thankful that you wanted to take time out of your busy day to learn about what we have going on here. So quickly, a little bit about the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. We award grants and contracts to agencies for services that enrich the lives of older adults, and we serve 7-county Arrowhead region. We are also a technical assistance provider through the Minnesota Age Friendly Grants, which is what we're here to talk about today. We have a full agenda, so I'm really glad that we have so many folks here. We're fitting a lot in. We're only scratching the surface for some of the work that's happening. So we do encourage you to have this just be a taste of what we have going on and what you might be able to do, and reach out to us afterwards. As we mentioned, you feel free. Looks like folks are already introducing themselves in their chat. And our agenda today, we're going to look at statewide progress, regional progress, community progress, and then some time for Q&A, discussion, and calls to action. We had about a third of the people who registered for the webinar today had not attended previous age-friendly either webinars or our regional exchange in Chisholm. So I'm really excited that we have some new faces and names at the table today. And for the rest of you, this is a refresher about what is an age-friendly community. When we think age-friendly, we think all ages. It's a community that works for everyone. We're not talking about the things that can be done for quote unquote those old people. We are talking about communities for everyone that fosters economic growth and makes for happier and healthier residents of all ages. This work is structured under the World Health Organization's Global Network of Age-Friendly Communities, and AARP is the US affiliate. The Global Age-Friendly Network is a way for communities to make changes, bring like-minded organizations together. It's a lens to approach projects and ultimately an organizing structure for communities to get work done. This work is structured under 8 domains or 8 focus areas, everything from housing, transportation, and outdoor spaces, so built environment, to things that are more focused on social participation, communication, health services, and civic participation, as well as disaster preparedness. So Age-Friendly Minnesota is a collaborative statewide effort that makes our systems and communities more inclusive to the needs of older adults. This work launched in 2019, and in 2021, Minnesota entered the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. We have, as part of the Age-Friendly Minnesota work, so there is a Governor's Council on Age-Friendly Minnesota. As one of the results of that and other statewide initiatives, our state legislature allocated approximately $6 million that is currently being invested to advance community efforts to help Minnesota become a better place to grow up and grow older. We are, as I mentioned, as an area agency on aging, a recipient of the Age-Friendly Minnesota Technical Assistance Provider grants. And in round 1, there were 91 community grantees who received funds, and the second round of grants will go out in July of 2024. And we'll get into some of the work that's been happening regionally through our Age-Friendly Minnesota grants in the Arrowhead region. Another result of Minnesota being an age-friendly state is work around developing a multi-sector plan on aging. So a multi-sector plan is an umbrella term for a state-led multi-year planning process that convenes cross-sector stakeholders to collaboratively address the needs of older adults and people with disabilities. This is a 10-year timeframe. It really helps to guide the restructuring of state and local policy. So with the intent to sort of break down some silos and do a more comprehensive planning process, both for state as well as for public and private sectors. This state plan could and should and will reflect extensive community input, and it will be data-driven. So we will highlight some of the information that came out at our regional exchange in Chisholm back in September of 2023. And this exchange, as well as 6 others across the state, were one of the ways that Age-Friendly Minnesota sought out community input. This multi-sector plan is being led by Age-Friendly Minnesota council members, comprised of leadership from 9 state agencies, Greater Minnesota representatives, age-friendly faith communities, and tribal nations. So as I mentioned, we had regional exchanges back in September. There were 7 across the state, and today's one of the purposes of today's webinar is to provide information back. So what did we gather there, and what are the next steps? In Chisholm, we were very excited that in the Arrowhead, we had the largest registration and attendance of anywhere in the state. We had 85 people register and 62 attend. And you can see from this slide that we had people from all over. So it wasn't your usual suspects of aging service providers and grant makers and things like that. Age-friendly is really about broadening the conversation, thinking about communities for everyone. And so some of the participation here for our multi-sector or for our regional exchange reflects, that we were able to get a lot of voices at the table. So all the information that was gathered, we broke out into groups. For those of you who attended, you may remember that, and did some brainstorming and discussion on 4 domains. And this is one example of the domains that we focused on. So we were talking about what outcomes were we hoping to see relative to economic security and vitality. And so one example from what we heard in our region is that we wanted better job opportunities for retirees in Northeast Minnesota. And one potential strategy could be to educate employers to allow for more flexibility. So that's just to give you a flavor. I do have the full link there, and we will be sending these slides out after the webinar for everyone who attended or everyone who registered. So you will be able to dive further if you want into all of the strategies and domains that we talked about in our region. So statewide, this data was aggregated from the 7 exchanges, and it helped to inform our blueprint. So this is the multi-sector blueprint. And all of the information that had been gathered, as well as a lot of other data sources, has been organized into these 4 areas. And you can see that it houses a lot of work. So there can be a lot of work happening. But part of what the multi-sector plan does is to put it all together in one great big plan with the intent that these both domains as well as strategies will intersect and coordinate with one another. So time-wise, right now we're holding our, sharing with folks, sharing with our regional stakeholders what we've learned, what's been gathered, and we're looking forward to the blueprint being released in June of 2024. We are inviting you today to take a brief survey to talk about your interest and expertise. We want broad engagement on this multi-sector plan. You can follow the work of Age Friendly Minnesota Council meetings and watch their recordings online, and we have that information there for you. So moving on, we are going to now move from statewide to regional work. So as I mentioned, as an Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging, we serve the 7 counties in northeastern Minnesota. And I'm going to spotlight some of the work that has been done and money that's been invested in our region. So we're very excited that over $845,000 has been invested in age-friendly projects in the Arrowhead region. So in round 1, we had 15 total grantees throughout the region, which we received a little over $420,000. And 10 of those 15 community grantees applied for expansions. We had $500,000 in requests for expansions, and $425,000 will be granted out. And new organizations can apply for round 2 grant funding in July 2024. And I would love to spend a lot of time talking about each one of these because there's so much great work that's been happening. But as I mentioned, this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the work that's happened in our region. So you'll see, I'll go county by county here, and I'll tie the work happening in the county to the specific age-friendly domain that they're working on. And so the first one is Aiken County. 2 projects who are working on social participation. The first one is Aiken County Friends of the Arts. In that lower right-hand corner, you can see they're building an outdoor gathering space for arts and other community events, really looking at accessibility and partnering with other community organizations to have a community space for social connections. And then the second one is Aiken Public Schools. Really exciting there to see their school district along with their community ed looking at the public school system as a place for people of all ages. So they have created maker spaces. So think about things like labs for woodworking, welding, embroidery, sewing, that kind of thing, where older adults can come in and access the facilities. And I believe they're doing work around finding times for older adults to actually interact with the students as well, to serve as mentors, build relationships, and things like that. So really exciting to see the work happening there. Carleton County, Volunteer Services of Carleton County focused on outdoor spaces, looking at physical improvements to their parking lot and a crosswalk that leads to their wellness center and their Volunteer Services of Carleton County, which offers a variety of services. So something as simple as where do people park and how do I cross the street? That's an example of how that doesn't just help older adults, it helps people of all ages. Cook County, you will hear a lot more from them after a little bit, but really exciting to see. They've been working on all 8 domains, really doing cross-sector, broad community engagement, community listening sessions to inform their interest in joining the AARP network. Pictured here is our Grand Portage Tribal Listening Session. Really had some great engagement there, great discussion up in Grand Portage with the tribes on what age-friendly means for them. Itasca County, there were 3 grantees in Itasca County. The first was Oak Hill Assisted Living, working on single-family home units using universal design. The second was Elder Circle, which were working on expanding and supporting a referral network, hiring a DEIA consultant, and looking at volunteer recruitment and enrollment. And then last, the Itasca County YMCA purchased equipment for outdoor, outdoor exercise and different ways for people to stay active in their community. Lake County, Friends of Finland. You will also hear more from Lake County in a little bit. But specifically, we have a Lake County Age-Friendly Coalition for this grant, their Age-Friendly Minnesota grant. They were focused solely on housing, it's a really big area for a lot of people when we're talking age-friendly. And they were honing in on home modifications, so increasing accessibility for home modifications and trying to build capacity so more folks can get the appropriate home modifications they need. And then the second was focused in Crystal Bay Township, which is near Finland, to look at a housing development. So planning and community engagement around how do they provide affordable and accessible intergenerational housing. Southern St. Louis County, we had CHUM, which is a housing organization. They're doing some ADA improvements to a 43-unit former hotel that houses older adults with a history of homelessness. So you can see in the lower right-hand there, a picture of their construction under work. And then Community Action Duluth has a mobile market, and they were purchasing another bus to increase food access for low-income, low-access sites throughout Duluth and surrounding areas. Now, we can't talk about age-friendly unless we talk about pickleball. We know there have been many communities who love pickleball for all ages. And so up in Aurora, which is in northern St. Louis County, there's the Jim Galatch Memorial Fund that looked at a portion of the project was funded through age-friendly grants to convert downtown Aurora's tennis courts into pickleball courts. And then our regional work, we have the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission that's looking at some analysis of North Shore recreational facilities, such as the Superior Hiking Trail, to think about how they can be, which sections might be more age-friendly, what types of communication can go out there, and then marketing them as such. And then the second one is with Northspan. Northspan is our regional economic development agency who is looking at building a toolkit. It's actually almost completed. It's a toolkit for employers on returnships. So a returnship is like an internship, but it could be for an adult who has left the workforce for a variety of reasons. Maybe they retired, maybe they have children and have been out of the workforce, but it's a tool to help employers tap in. And I'll do a little promo here. We are actually doing a second webinar on returnships. So if you want to learn more about this is happening on Thursday, April 25th. And that's with our partner, Alley Building Camps with Northspan. A couple more things to highlight that we have done that we've been excited about as part of our age-friendly grant. We have convened a group of up to 20, close to 20 people, volunteers and professionals who have been committed to be aging ambassadors. We call this group the Arrowhead Changemakers, and it has been a really fun and energizing, incredible group, inspiring group of people. A lot of folks who have retired or maybe semi-retired, and they want to reframe the way that we all think about aging. So we have, it's taken these people have done aging advocacy work in a lot of different regions. You're going to hear from 2 of our change makers today, Ann Buzzy and Mary McReynolds, to hear a little bit about what work they've been doing as aging advocates. And we are launching our second cohort just in a few weeks here. One of our big focuses with our change makers was around reframing ageism. So we did develop in partnership with Duluth Aging Support, and who've been great supporters for our changemakers work, a whole campaign on making waves to end ageism. And our changemakers have used this information and materials to share within their communities. And last, I'll talk a little bit about the work that we've done for outreach for businesses. So this is our third year as an area agency on aging that we have launched our Aging Impact Award. This is an award that is given to local businesses and organizations that have gone above and beyond. Part of our hope is that we give those businesses a pat on the back for doing good work, but we also want to help them become more aware and familiar of our aging demographics and why they should be paying attention. So here's a quick example of some of our materials that we're using to promote the Aging Impact Award, talking about the contributions older adults make to the economy, and encouraging folks to pay attention. And then last is our Age-Friendly Arrowhead Business Program. This is new this year. It stemmed from our Aging Impact Award, and we want to offer something to businesses who want to take it further. Our initial cohort will include 10 to 12 businesses from diverse sectors, a 2-hour training followed by quarterly webinars on a variety of topics. And we're hoping this will launch, we're starting it in the Duluth area, but hoping to spread it throughout the region in months and years to come. And here's where some of the training components will be. Aging landscape, reframing ageism, refraining aging, talking about the longevity economy, what is an age-friendly business, overview on working caregivers, etc. So we're happy to share information on our business work as well to other folks who are interested. And with that, we are going to pop over to share some of the great work that's happening in our communities. We have 5 panelists in total. You can click over to here. You can see our 5 panelists. We do have a lot more work that I'd love to talk about, but I know we don't have enough time today. So our first 2 panelists were not able to join us live. I do believe we have folks from Cook County on this call. So we will be able to go have time for Q&A with them at the end. But our Virginia and Cook County folks will be on the video, and then we have Duluth, Lake County, and Hibbing who will be doing live presentations. So I am going to hop into our presentations, our video recorded presentations from our Cook County and Virginia. Okay, Ashley, can you confirm that you can see my YouTube screen?
I can.
Okay. Oh, I think I actually need to reshare to be able to share with sound, and that is on.
I chose Wix for...
That's not what we want to see. Bear with me here. Technology is the funnest part of webinars.
Thank you, Mary, so much for joining us today. We're really excited to hear about the great work that you've been doing as you have kind of just jumped right into the age-friendly work, both through our Arrowhead Changemakers cohort, but as well as with the work happening in Virginia. So Mary, I'd love it if you could just give us a kind of a high-level overview about who you are, what brought you into this work, and maybe share with us a little bit about all the great work that's happening in Virginia.
Thank you, Georgia. Hello, I'm Mary McReynolds. I live in Virginia, Minnesota. I am retired from a career as a planner in the environmental field. I consider myself a seed planter. My parents instilled in me a love of participation and serving my community that I've used here as a past city councilwoman, a longtime board member and executive director of a nonprofit arts organization, and now I chair the Virginia Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm bringing that passion for community to age-friendly work and bringing a passion for age-friendly concepts to my community. I am part of the Arrowhead Changemakers cohort, which is funded through the Age-Friendly Minnesota Council, and that funding comes through the Arrowhead Agency on Aging. I joined the cohort so I could network with others doing this work. My early interest was in the lack of affordable housing for active seniors in my community, but now I'm taking a broader view and have been organizing the Virginia Age-Friendly Citizens Advisory Committee, which just yesterday succeeded in passing a request for the City Council to approve joining the Global Age-Friendly Communities Network through AARP. As a Citizens Advisory Committee, we have members that include city staff, county staff, University of Minnesota Medical School staff working on memory issues, the healthcare community through its resource people, educators, and Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. There's 4 A's there. Alongside residents of Virginia. I had hopes that this committee would morph into a regular standing commission for the city. However, now I'm taking a little bit different stance on that, because to be a city commission, all the members have to reside within the city of Virginia. And that would eliminate some of the really awesome age-friendly professionals we have on the committee. So that may be further down the road, but I think while we're organizing, we'll stay as a Citizens Advisory Committee. Now that the council has approved moving forward, I'll be working with our city administrator here to submit the application. Next Tuesday, the city council will be adopting the resolution to apply to be part of the age-friendly network. So we'll start that work after that. And once we have been approved for membership, then the real work begins. We plan to apply for age-friendly Minnesota grant funds so we can work with a consultant on gathering data and compiling a report on our community assessment, and then move on to drafting an action plan. Working through the age-friendly lens is important when planning and implementing local government programs and services. Just as an example, the city here recently discontinued its curbside recycling program, which is a passion of mine because that was my former career. But they did this without getting the perspective of local citizens, in my opinion. In Virginia, 32% of our residents are over the age of 65, and many of these folks do not drive, so they can't access the recycling drop-off sites without help. And I feel if the city had gotten public input, this may have had an impact on their decision to discontinue this valuable program. So I see the age-friendly lens has a myriad of benefits to planning at the community level for programs and services and all the way through economic development. That's
Great.
it.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. I love listening to you talk and telling your story. From an outsider's perspective, I really admire the way that you have navigated on this journey. Sort of thinking that you're going to start out in one direction and working really hard with our Changemakers group as we are talking about ageism and reframing aging, and really translating that to your community. You really know the ins and outs of who to talk to. And I think when you think you might go one way, you're ready to pivot. So I think that's really inspiring to know that, this is a dynamic process for you and for Virginia. And it's just been an exciting piece to watch. Do you have anything, Mary, that you could speak to regarding maybe what you feel might be some great successes so far? I know you're really early in the process, but any, even small successes you feel, and then either challenges that you have anticipated, like challenges for the future, or challenges that you've encountered so far?
Well, I went into this thinking that working with the city council could be a challenge. Um, However, they had this opportunity presented to them a number of years ago, working with city staff as the main committee working on becoming part of the age-friendly network. So most of them were familiar with it. And Georgia and I also met with them about a year ago, just to kind of introduce them to this work. So, and also to get their permission to form the Age-Friendly Citizens Advisory Committee. We waited for a while after that because the city was working on some other issues. They had to go through some really significant budget changes, and to give the staff members who are part of this committee time to go through that process with the city and get it off their plate so they could come to the table with us a little more refreshed and able to really enjoy the process. So I think that's about the only challenge that we've met so far, and we're just excited to jump in and move forward. I know it'll take time. The whole process takes time, and as the work progresses, I think we'll be doing more committee development, actually getting officers, and so the work can continue whether I'm there or not. So that's some of the work left to do.
Great. Thanks, Mary. I think you are really spot on when you talk about the timing of things have to be right. It was probably in 2021 that Virginia received an Aging Impact Award for keeping their sidewalks and their parks and trails clear during the pandemic. So they, I think we kind of planted a seed then. So I love when you said you're a seed planter, that this stuff does take time, and it feels like it's gone quick over the last few months, but it really, you highlight the point that this can be years in the making, and change happens in small ways and in big ways, and it can happen over time. So, but it can't happen without people like you. So Mary, thank you so much for the work that you've done. And I'll be sure to make sure that we provide your contact information so folks can reach out to you if they have any additional questions or comments about the great work that's happening in Virginia.
And thank you, Georgia, and the other people, Mimi, Brenda, that started organizing the Changemakers cohort. It's been a really valuable networking opportunity. So thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, Mary. All right. Now we are going to switch over to our friends in Cook County, who have been doing a really fabulous job working with their age-friendly grant to ensure that they are positioned well to start some age-friendly work throughout Cook County. So with that, we are going to first hand it off to Julie Wilson. Julie, I'll let you kind of do a brief introduction. And we actually are super lucky to have 3 individuals here who have been working tirelessly in Cook County for probably, I'd say a year to 2 years. I'm not exactly sure the time frame, but really excited for you guys to share your story for all that's happening in Cook County. So Julie, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Julie Wilson. I work as the executive director at Care Partners of Cook County. We provide services to older adults in the community that are dealing with challenges in aging, and we do a lot of positive education and support to age well in Cook County, and provide a number of services as well as end of life work. So super happy to be involved with this. It's for myself personally, I'm a social worker, macro social worker. My MSW from the University of Minnesota was with health, disability, and aging with a gerontology certification. So that's kind of my background and passion. I've been in long-term care in some form or another for over 20 years. So nursing homes, assisted living, senior housing, home care, community services. So age friendly for me is just really important. Because our systems and understanding of aging has changed, or needs to, and certainly has begun to change what it means, as well as service provision. So there's so much in this shifting demographic that's really, I think, finally hitting the mainstream, if you will, that it's really important. People are wanting to hear about it. A lot of good conversation happening in Cook County. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves. Maybe Grace?
Sure, I'm happy to go next. My name is Grace Grenager. I'm the Public Health Supervisor for Cook County. We are a small rural health department, and we wind up doing quite a bit of a variety of different things. And so one of those things is the community health assessment. So we try to bring partners like Julie and others in the community together to talk about what's important to consider when it comes to health challenges in our community so that we can rally behind shared goals and a shared vision for how to improve things. So I am less familiar with the world of aging than Julie is. My background is actually in sexual and reproductive health, and over time I've become sort of a generalist working for the county. But when Julie approached me with the Age Friendly project, I really started to dive in and try to understand kind of what the vision is and what it means to be age friendly. So we kind of got started working together by inviting the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging and the AARP to some of our advisory councils here at the county, and decided to pursue funding from Age Friendly Minnesota. So that was the initial stage of working together on this project. And things have kind of evolved from there, and I don't want to give too much away because I know we have other questions to talk about, but I'll turn it over to my colleague Andrea Tofty to introduce herself as well.
Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. My name is Andrea Tofty. I am a health educator at County Public Health, and my background is in environmental health and sciences, and I started working with the Age Friendly Initiative since the county became interested in accessing the extra funding to support these activities. And from the public health lens, I'm really pleased to work with this project because it addresses many of the social determinants of health that we focus our work on, and help prevent chronic disease. And this work also will ensure that we are being inclusive and equitable to demographics of all ages.
Great. Thanks so much. You guys all come from such unique backgrounds, which I think really adds to the dynamic process for what you've been doing up there. So I'd love for you guys to share a little bit about your listening sessions and sort of how you've positioned. You've really been an exemplary model of community engagement to talk about age friendly and really get out to the big city of Grand Marais, all the way up to the end of the Gunflint Trail to talk to Cook County residents. And I'd love for you guys to just share what that process has been like. What was the purpose of it? What were the outcomes that you're seeing from that?
Well, I'll jump in, Andrea, but feel free too. So Andrea and I did the all of the community listening sessions, and we decided to really try to go out to all the communities of our county, because Cook County, for those that aren't familiar, we are the farthest northeast little tip there of Minnesota, and it's remote, and things are far from each other. We have distinctly different communities here in our county. So we did 10 different community sessions last fall. Well, one just last week actually, but most of them were last fall. We kind of went along the whole area. Of course, there's always pockets we could have gone to, but we did 10. We went to Grand Portage, to the tribal community there. It was wonderful reception and excited for this work. We had them at Hoveland, which is between Grand Portage and Grand Marais. And then we did one at the library in Grand Marais, still going up the North Shore, or down the North Shore there. We went to Lutzen and Tofty and Schroeder. And then, as Grace mentioned, we did mid-trail at the Gunflint and the end of the Gunflint. Then we did a Zoom session for anybody that couldn't get to a session. And then just last week we did a follow-up at the YMCA, because there's a lot of people. And I think that was sort of an aha for us. I'm looking at Grace and Andrea, that just that reality of, yes, we had our session and we did our session, but while people are coming and going there all the time, at the time we chose to do the session, a lot of older adults, but people of all ages. And so a lot of opportunity to just talk to people, hand out the survey, really just engage with people. So we've kind of left all of our information sitting there, but we've had a lot of fun. I think we discovered our goals really were to hear directly from people in conversation around what they love in Cook County, what they want to preserve, what is new, what has happened and changed, and then what are some of the challenges. And I think both Andrea and I, when we did this, it was really unique to see the things that were on the minds of different areas of Cook County. And of course, there were certain themes of housing and transportation, but that wasn't always the top thing on some of the conversations. So it was really fascinating. I think a success of that is it did help us avoid groupthink. Instead of just having these really big town halls, we had a lot of small conversations. Some of them were bigger, but some of them were small. And so it really did allow people to take the conversation in different directions. And we really just wanted to listen. And Andrea was like an amazing woman of capturing everything. She just really did a great job of like capturing all of the conversation. So we've got a lot of really good information and data. We had and maybe Andrea, I'll pass it back to you. We can talk a little more about challenges and successes, but do you want to talk a little bit about the survey part of it? That's been your wheelhouse.
Sure. My computer has a bit of delay, so are you able to hear me right now? Yeah, okay. So on my end, what I have contributed to the age-friendly initiative, we created a survey to assess the needs of our community. So for which we use the tools already created by Age-Friendly Minnesota, which listed many different questions in the 9 domains of livability. So we narrowed it down to about 90 questions that were aligned with our community characteristics. And so the survey, it's comprehensive, and as I mentioned, touches on the 9 domains of livability. So along with that, we created the forums using the same tool created by the Age-Friendly Minnesota that guided us to assemble questions that will create conversations within our community members, in which conversations we will be able to understand what works today and what you wish that we had and that worked for the future. And so I think it's gonna be a lot of qualitative and quantitative data that we will have to process and curate. We're excited for the general findings, some of the findings that we're seeing so far mirror our community health assessment in terms of priorities for our community, which are housing, healthcare access, and transportation. So within all the information we've gathered, we're hoping to narrow it down to specific issues that we're going to look at in specific population, specific segments of the population. So we're really excited to see what this will bring. I don't know if there's something specific that you'd like me to say, or if you have a question.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, you guys have just done, both the community engagement, but also like really great job of comprehensive data gathering. And I'm curious if you want to speak to, maybe Grace, this is more a question for you, but how does this align with overall public health work? Because I think both you guys as well as Lake County, who we're going to hear from as well, I mean, public health is at the center of this work. And that's been really incredible because when we talk about multi-sector, cross-sector initiatives, I think it's great to have public health leading it. So I'm curious, kind of how forward looking, right? Where do you hope this goes for public health as well as for kind of countywide work? And then are you anticipating entering in, using this information and entering into the AARP network? So Grace, you can respond to that, and then Julie or Andrea as well, if you have any input on that.
Sure. So immediately, we are going to, our next step is to present to our Board of Commissioners. So we have a appointment, I guess, set for the March 19th Committee of the Whole meeting. So we'll be sharing our initial findings with the Board of Commissioners. And then at a later date, probably in April, asking them to formally vote on whether to become part of the AARP Age-Friendly Network. And we've gotten a lot of support so far from our county boards, so I'm hopeful that they'll see value in the data gathering that we've been able to do through the community engagement at the forums and with the survey. And then we did receive expansion grant funding, and with or without that funding, I think our next steps were always to take what data we've gathered and figure out how it can both be informed in our existing assessment and plan that's for the county overall, that's our health improvement plan and our health assessment. So how can we add this data to what we already have in our public health efforts? And then how can we create some standalone documents and presentations so we can share this information out more broadly with cross-sector partners. So we want to share what we learn and have that information be what we use to as like a jumping off point for action plans and next steps once we hear from our commissioners whether we're going to be joining the network or not. So hopefully we will, but regardless, I think we're all committed to figuring out how to use the data to inform community projects into the future.
Great.
I would add, Georgia, too. It's really been exciting to see, and Grace, the first time we talked about this at the Public Health Advisory Committee, people weren't familiar with the concept. It was kind of a little bit of I'm not sure what, and it's really fun to see how powerful conversation is. I mean, it really is just a lot of conversation, a lot of, we've been on the radio, we've done, a segment there talking about this initiative regularly, once a month, talking about it. We've had posters, no matter how much communication we do, we still have people that haven't heard of this survey, haven't heard about the initiative. And so we just this morning were chatting about the conversation continues, right? We finished our, our official, the listening sessions for this segment anyways. And we continue to have conversations. I mean, it's just ongoing, and capturing data and thoughts and talking concerns and everything will continue to be ongoing. But I think it's powerful how much this has taken a hold, and really do see some real excitement around this, and it's certainly a lot of people really concerned and passionate about aging in Cook County. What does this look like? How do we get some action items in place to make sure we for include all kinds of across all of the domains? Just a lot of enthusiasm, I think. So it'll be fun to see where this goes.
Well, thank you all so much for your time. We are out of time right now. I'll be sure to include your contact information so people can reach out to you. Really appreciate sharing stories because Age-Friendly Minnesota is happening on statewide levels, on many levels, but all change happens local. And so you guys really are the boots on the ground who are bringing this out to regular Minnesotans, regular Cook County residents, who want to think about aging and aging well in our communities. So thank you all for sharing your stories today. I really appreciate it. And keep up the great work that you're doing.
Thanks for your support, Grace.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching that. I think, here we go. Give me just 1 second till I can get my tech back up. There we go. All right, so those were our 2 recorded presentations from our Cook County and Virginia folks. We do have some folks who are on, so they'll be able to take some questions. And with that, I would like to introduce our first live presenter, Jody Slick, who is with Equilibrium 3. They are leading in partnership with Duluth Aging Support, the Duluth Age-Friendly efforts. So Jody, thank you so much for finding time in your schedule to join us today. And we'd love to hear from you. Who are you? Who is Eco3? And what is Age-Friendly Duluth all about?
Sure. So Equilibrium 3 is a Duluth-based nonprofit organization. And we actually work in a wide variety of things. 3 kind of main areas have been, we run an AmeriCorps Vista program to help lots of organizations build their capacity. The second is we do a lot of energy and environment work, climate work, and that's actually at lots of different scales. We're doing things within the city of Duluth, and then we have some programs that expand regionally, as well as actually partnering with some federal agencies. And then the thing that we might be most known for is we do a lot of work very specific in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. And so all things Lincoln Park are things that we pay attention to. And that's everything from helping to secure the funds to rebuild West Superior Street, running the Main Street Lincoln Park Business Group, working on energy and buildings, working on an active transportation corridor, potentially a new district energy system that would capture the waste heat from WLSSD to heat buildings and maybe even do something like snow melt. So basically all things Lincoln Park. And we actually were contacted by Mimi Stender with the Duluth Aging Support because she was looking for a partner that wasn't your kind of typically aging focused organization, but instead kind of a partner that's working on everything from our built environment, transportation, housing, all of those type of things, so that we could embed the age-friendly lens in kind of that really deep community work that we are involved in. So Duluth Aging Support, Equilibrium 3 are kind of the leads then in the Duluth age-friendly communities. We actually just got our action plan submitted to the AARP. And the way in which we've been doing that work is working with stakeholders, but we didn't want to set up just kind of like another series of meetings that everybody needs to be at on a monthly basis. And so the plan looks at things really in 3 different ways. One is kind of broader knowledge and awareness, and you can see with Quad A and others, the Amazing Ageism Awareness campaign that's come out of that, as well as some work, for example, that Duluth Aging Support has been doing on the Minnesota Nice campaign to really look at that accessibility year-round in our community. And then there is, so kind of that broader knowledge, outreach, understanding is one piece. The second piece then is looking at kind of like governance and policy and how issues are addressed. And that's happening through things like the change makers, as well as through kind of monthly meetings that are being hosted on a variety of topics with additional kind of community members and stakeholders. And then the third is looking at all of these different type of projects that are happening within our community, and not necessarily going out and doing a project specific to aging, but embedding what would make our community thrive for all ages, embedded in all of the other projects. And so I gave the example of West Superior Street earlier. That design is actually going to be the most not only climate forward, but really people forward street, I would say, in northern Minnesota. It's going to have kind of an interesting mix that the Lincoln Park neighborhood hasn't seen of green space and amenity space, as well as making sure that when we're thinking about how we use the curb, we're meeting the needs of older individuals, mobility limited individuals, et cetera. It separates out bikes and pedestrians and cars, so everybody has their own space, so we don't run into some of those conflicts. It really follows a lot of what the walk audit protocols would be coming from AARP. And then even looking at the possibility of having a deep structural systematic change of maybe being able to even get into something like snowmelt. That's one example where we run an urban farm. And so I've been looking at how can we do creative placemaking there that again creates an opportunity for older individuals to kind of continue engage in that type of space that feeds a lot of souls. And we're actually going to be applying for a grant that would create that type of garden indoor space so that we can meet needs kind of year round. So really those are the three kind of legs of the stool: that awareness, that kind of ongoing governance, engagement, and then embedding into projects.
Thank you, Jody. You did a great job articulating all the work that you have going on. I think Eco3 is sort of the embodiment of intersectionality. You know, you guys work in a neighborhood that is historically underserved, has shorter lifespan, and for you to sort of embed the age-friendly lens into all the work that you're doing is really great. I'd love for folks who are on this call, who are watching it at another time, if you want to know, you know, how do age-friendly and climate change relate? I mean, talk to Jody at Eco3. It's just been really exciting to see. I have one question for you, Jody, because we have about 2 more minutes of your time. What are some of, I guess, from your eyes as the executive director with Equilibrium 3, what are some of your greatest successes to date? Because I know we've been at this for a couple of years. And so what do you feel have been some of the greatest challenges that you've run into specific to the age-friendly work that you've taken on?
Yeah, I actually think one of the best successes is some of the outreach that happened to even do an assessment in our community. There was a lot of work and intentionality that was put in that to make sure that we were actually capturing individuals from neighborhoods like Lincoln Park, from people that come from diverse cultural backgrounds. And so I think that going through and doing like all of that extra work so that it's not just reflecting like in the first pass, you know, honestly, your middle income women, I think was really important. And one thing that really kind of came out of our initial assessment, where we were looking at the 8 different domains of livability, was the idea that we really needed to dig in more on the social connectedness side. Because that was the one where I think there's a burgeoning understanding that that is so huge for healthy aging, for even things like disaster resilience and all of that. But we needed to kind of dig in and tease that out a little bit more to better understand what are the places and the ways in which people are connected or would like to be connected. And that's helping to drive, again, how we think about different projects.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And Jody, if you want to put your contact info in the chat, that would be great. I do have a slide with your contact info on it as well, but for those who want to grab it right here. So thanks, Jody. Next, we're going to transition to Lake County. Larissa Sandretsky also has been a public health champion for age-friendly work. Larissa, I'm going to share my screen so I can get your slides up and we can start from there. One second here, I'll switch over to, there we go. Does that look about right for you? Okay, go ahead, Larissa.
Awesome. Thanks, Georgia. So I'm Larissa. I work for Lake County Public Health. I'm a health educator, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing up here in Lake County to make our community more age-friendly. You can go to the next slide. I'm going to skip through these quick because a lot of people covered these parts of the process a little more than I need to, I think. So we applied for the AARP designation in October 2021. Here's the photo of the team when we got that designation. And Georgia, do you want to go to the next? And this is just, I think everyone talked about this, the AARP process. So we're kind of in this year 2 to 3 where we're transitioning from planning and assessing into the implementation phase. All right, next. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about a ton about our assessment, but I'm happy to share more details if people have questions. But we did surveys and outreach, and we found that housing and social connectedness were the top priorities for older adults in Lake County for us to consider as we embarked on this work. So those are the 2 domains that we're spending most of our energy on as a group. Next slide. So I'll talk about each of those in detail. So this is our housing work. So we did receive an age-friendly Minnesota grant to work on housing. So Georgia talked a bit about what we're doing. There's a group in Finland called Finland Home Solutions. And if you're not familiar with Lake County, Finland is in the northeastern part. It's about 202 population, I think. So a real small rural community with a really strong identity though, and really a lot of people that desire to stay there as they age because it's their home, as most of us would say, I think. So really thinking about what that looks like and how we can plan for and design affordable intergenerational housing options for everyone in Finland that works. And we're working on improving our home modification programs. I think this is probably true across our region and probably across the country, is that I think it was 75% of our survey respondents wanted to stay in their homes as they age. So what can we do to help make that possible for people? That's something we're working on. And then we're also using that age-friendly lens to provide input on other housing initiatives that are happening in the county. So I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide about what I think some of our strengths are. So I think Jody talked about this too, how we didn't want to just start a bunch of new projects, start a bunch of new coalition meetings and initiatives. We really wanted to see what was happening already and see how we could strengthen those things and add age-friendly lenses to them. So for the home modification piece, we're just going to bring all the partners together. There's a lot of people working on this across our region. A lot of people doing home assessments, a lot of people identifying what could be changed in people's homes. And then there's a lot of providers on the other end as well who are able to do that work. So we're really working on finding out where are the gaps in those, in that process, and how can we help fix those and improve what's already happening. And one of the things we are seeing is that the provider side, the actual construction, the widening of doorways, the changing of tubs to the walk-in tubs versus a step over. There's not a lot of people to actually do that work. So that's one of the things we're working on with our Lake County HRA, is developing a local program to help address those needs and that gap. One of our coalition members is on an advisory committee for a senior apartment building that's being constructed here in Two Harbors. So again, none of us on the coalition are housing experts. So we're seeing where this work is happening and how we can make sure age friendliness is built into the process. We're not going to build an apartment building ourselves, but we can help advise on that and make sure it includes important needs. And then the Finland housing work has been a discussion for a few years, and this funding really allowed that work to take on a new fire, I guess. Like, they were able to fund a coordinator and pull together a more solid group to actually look at this issue and what it looks like in their community. So again, identifying something that was kind of already happening and then adding to it with our age-friendly work. All right, next slide. And now I'll talk about social connectedness. So that was our other top priority. Jody talked a little bit about how this is a big priority in health, and that's why public health is involved in this effort. It's just really important for people to be socially connected for all sorts of reasons. So two of the main things we're doing is actually increasing social activities with a focus on older adults, and then promoting our existing activities, because we did hear a lot from our survey and just conversations that people weren't aware of what was happening in the community. So we're just trying to make that more accessible and available to people in Lake County. Do it in the next slide, Georgia. So again, I'll share a little bit about how we're collaborating with existing initiatives in our county. So Cook County also talked about the community health needs assessment. We, as a Lake County Public Health Department, also completed a similar process back in 2022 with our partners at Lakeview Hospital. And physical activity was one of our top 3 priorities, increasing physical activity. So we were able to marry that priority with the social connectedness priority of the age-friendly work. And so most of our social connected activities, our new activities, incorporate physical activity, so that we're accomplishing both of those goals for everyone in our community. Another way we collaborated is with the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership. So that's a statewide grant that funds some of my time. So their priorities are, again, very similar to age-friendly priorities. So it's a good partner to work with if you're doing this work. And we were able to use some of the SHIP funds to train a new Tai Chi Kwan instructor up in Silver Bay and launch a new program up there. And then we're also looking at ways we can just add social connection to existing programs like senior dining. So we have 3 different senior dining sites in our county. And one of the ways we've added social connectedness is having presentations and conversations at one of those, and then encouraging in person. During COVID, a lot of the senior dining programs transitioned to takeout, and people kind of got in that habit of just driving up and grabbing their lunch and leaving. So we're really encouraging that in-person piece instead. So people are coming together and sharing a meal and building their social connections. All right, tips for other communities. Obviously, if you want to embark on this age-friendly process, work with Georgia, work with the Quad A. They've been super helpful in this process. She knows all the ins and outs, can connect you with people throughout our region and at AARP to help you do your best work. Find the organizations that share your mission to help you build the programs and build the age-friendly infrastructure. That's been really helpful for us. I mentioned the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership. So every county in Minnesota has a SHIP coordinator. In Lake County, it happens to be me, so that's convenient. But if you're not connected with that person, that's definitely a good person to work with. Again, they share a lot of the same goals as age-friendly Minnesota, and can be a really good advocate, source of funding, extra hands on deck to help accomplish this work. Build on existing efforts. Don't feel like you need to recreate the wheel or start a bunch of new stuff, especially when you're first starting out. And then one thing we talked about a lot in our early days when we felt like, are we actually doing anything, is reminding ourselves that every exposure to the age-friendly framework is progress. And every time somebody else learns about, this massive demographic shift happening in Minnesota and especially in our region, that's progress. People will start to think about that as they're showing up at work, showing up to their family. It's all good news if more people understand how our state is changing, and what they can do to support that shift. So that's something that helps us feel like we're doing something, and it really does make a difference. You can hear it coming up more and more as we move through this process. So I think that's all I have. So there's my contact information. I can put it in the chat too, if anyone has specific questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Larissa. I'm going to ask, I do have one follow-up question for you and one comment. So first, the comment, the piece of any buzz, that it takes time. And when you feel like, what are we doing? We don't know if we're making progress. There's no tangible outcomes yet. When you're talking about aging demographics and even giving people the framework of age friendly, that is progress. Because it's culture change, and culture change takes time. And it doesn't take long when people start to see, the numbers, and when you look around the rooms and places and you see aging communities, and then say, hey, we have some tools for each community to think about it. Like, I think that's what we're working towards. So it might, even if folks don't enter into formal designation or have a formal coalition, it can kind of be small steps. So that's my comment. And then my question is, what do you feel? You talked a lot about successes. Maybe if you have another like kind of big success, but on the flip side, what challenges do you feel like you have run into, or what kind of like limitations have you met, and maybe how you've overcome some of them?
Good question. Yeah, I think our biggest challenge is just being in a small rural community. There's not a lot of us to do this work. And I'm sure many people on the call identify with that. It's sometimes the same 10 people at the table. So in every like community initiative. So I think it's been helpful. Like, we do meet monthly as a age-friendly coalition, but a lot of times we're just supporting each other's work kind of from the sidelines and providing that support, and not expecting ourselves to take on these huge new projects all the time. So just setting expectations and also using our time and effort like wisely, so that we can build on what's already happening and not burn ourselves out, and start a bunch of new projects that might not pan out. I think that's been something we've learned along the way.
Great. Thanks so much, Larissa. And if you want to go ahead and pop your contact info, I guess it's right there too. If you want to pop it in the chat, people can grab it. And last but not least, thank you, Anne, for your patience, and for everyone else. I would love to introduce my friend and colleague and mentor, source of inspiration for me, Anne Buzzy, who is a community advocate thriving in longevity. So Anne, you have the next 10 minutes to share your story, and we will leave some time for Q&A at the end.
Can everybody hear me all right? Okay, good. Well, it's just such a thrill to be here. I'm just learning so much. I've been taking copious notes about these wonderful communities. So thank you for being so good about sharing your stories. Age Friendly is a philosophy and a program that is important to me as an aging woman. And it really has the potential to be a major change maker for Hibbing in our Iron Range communities. We are at the beginnings of an age-friendly group in Hibbing. Georgia has been doing the heavy lifting, and it's really time for us in Hibbing to take that on. I have served as an evaluator for age-friendly grants with Georgia in our area in the past, and looking forward to being on the community side now. And my sense is that we are talking about the community of Hibbing, Minnesota. I have a sense that this is going to be a tough nut to crack to move to age-friendly approach. Our Hibbing culture is focused on recruitment strategies for families. And it's a worthy, long-term, sustainable goal. Unfortunately, our aging population is often seen as one that our communities are stuck with versus the population that they want. Therefore, moving to age-friendly status is a philosophy and programming that has the potential to be a change maker for our Hibbing community. Do we have these slides? So can I go to the next one? Let's see. And we can go on. That's just my bio. Okay. So community gerontology is an area of research, policy, and practice that advances understanding of communities as a fundamental context for aging and all of its diversity, and to leverage understanding for change. So we created an age-friendly logic model to tell our story, a tool that maps the ARP livability domains, the community strategies that align with each of those ARP domains, and then short, mid, and long-term outcomes expected for each community strategy. We are identifying that the long-term outcomes are twofold. And I really like these because I think they say so much about aging and healthy aging. One is community strategies that delay and prevent disability, because that really puts us into assisted living and long-term care. And then community strategies that provide opportunities for aging populations to continue to have purpose, to exercise their personal agency, to socially engage and connect with others, to have activities during day hours, and then have this sense of belonging in our communities. Our advocacy update, our community gerontology approach. Georgia and I shared our age-friendly Hibbing logic model with the Hibbing city leaders at a February 14th meeting. And it really was a good discussion, emphasizing the growth of our 65 plus population, as well as our increasing interest in our community opportunities to age well, and the desire to be involved. So we updated the Hibbing leaders about the ARP network and the opportunities for grant funding for projects that the city of Hibbing is already working on. And they have done 2 huge studies. They're each about 200 pages, and they're very interesting. The Hibbing Parks and Trail Master Plan and the Comprehensive Housing Needs Assessment. It's an opportunity to emphasize how important the 65 plus population is for Hibbing and our surrounding areas, contributing significantly to the local economy. So our next slide. So there are community initiatives and opportunities that we mapped onto our aging logic model that aligned with the livability domains. And so for outdoor spaces and buildings, it was the Hibbing walkability study, which is the second bullet on this slide. Housing, Hibbing housing needs analysis recommendations, social participation and respect. We do need to identify community socialization as a program goal for all of our Hibbing age-friendly initiatives. Work and civic engagement increase, and I'd be interested in how the other communities are doing this, but we don't have anything going on during the day in Hibbing. So we want to increase content and number of programs and activities offered during day hours through our library, which is already happening, our community education, everything is after 4:30, our park and rec department, who says that they aren't responsible for seniors. We do have the senior center who says that they do all the programming, and it isn't much. And our local and regional fitness centers, which are really for-profit equipment base. For communication and information, we want to maintain the viability of our local digital connection committees. Right now, DEED has sent all the digital connection information, the digital literacy and inclusion, to the federal government. And so we will be part of the next steps when grants and the whatever steps are to improve digital literacy across the range. And that's pretty much what we've been working on.
You're muted, Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing your expertise and for your tireless efforts. Again, this is a story of twists and turns. Community development doesn't happen in straight lines, and we don't always get the right people right away at the table, but we're creating a buzz. And so I think the conversation in Hibbing is really around how is this structured, what resources such as financial or other, what organizations are at the table to lead. We need community members and we need organizations at the table. So I really appreciate that. And then last but not least, I didn't want to forget, there's work happening as well in Chisholm. They weren't able to join us today and they moved more quickly than I expected, but they have a coalition that will be entering the AARP network actually tomorrow night. I'm going to speak to their city councilors then. So it's really fun to see some of these communities up on the Iron Range see the value in this. I think a lot of them see it's work that they're doing anyway. And this really kind of helps put it all under one umbrella. Here is a slide for the contact information for all of our speakers who are our panelists, whether they joined us, we did the recording or joined us live today. I do encourage you to reach out to these folks because we really, we're passionate about networking. We don't want to have everyone working in their own silos. And we as an area agency on aging don't want to serve as a bottleneck to all the great work happening. So we want to encourage folks to connect with each other as well. We do have a few calls to action today, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So please type your questions in the chat right now if you do have any questions. Here's some ways that you can get involved. As mentioned earlier, you can look at the multi-sector plan on aging with the link there. You can nominate a business for our Aging Impact Award. This could be any business in the 7-county Arrowhead region, or invite them to sign up for the age-friendly business training. You just need to contact me for that. We have an upcoming webinar, which I did put a slide in North Force's Employer Toolkit on returnships. We are taking new applications for our Changemakers group. That launches on March 28th, I believe. So we're taking applications for that right now. You could start your own age-friendly coalition in your community or join an existing one. Reach out to us as the Quad A to explore funding opportunities, whether it's age-friendly funding opportunities or other funding sources throughout the state, which we support. And then last but not least, we have a bit on the Legislative Task Force on Aging. We are, let me see, advance the slide here. This is a task force that was established to review and develop state resources for an aging demographic. So it does invite comment from members of the public and especially interested in hearing stories from people who've experienced issues. So we really want voices of individuals to just simply say, what is it like to live and age in my community? You don't have to be an expert. You can simply share your story, and we would love to hear from you. You can share it virtually, or you can testify either in person or join virtually to their meeting. So if you want more information on that, please contact us. So with that, I am going to stop sharing. I do invite folks to put some questions in the chat. You are welcome to turn your camera on. We can have this be more of an informal discussion as well. I know some of our speakers had to hop off. This was a 90-minute webinar. We know that's a little long for folks, but we just had a lot that we wanted to share. And as we said, this will be recorded. So any questions? All right, so seeing none, I'm happy to answer any. We can stay on for a little bit longer. Otherwise, folks can email us. I do appreciate everybody who was able to hop on today. And really hope that this sparked some ideas, some inspiration, gave you some good information to share within your communities. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we hope to see you at future webinars.